German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has signed an EU cooperation agreement with the government of Serbia on lithium excavation, the minerals used to make batteries for electric cars. The agreement has run into resistance in Serbia as a lithium mine would destroy agriculture in the west of the country. The EU is keen to shift its reliance on China for natural resources towards Europe. DW has been speaking with environmental activists in Serbia about the project.
This quiet region in western Serbia holds the largest known lithium reserves in Europe. For years, the Jadar Valley has been a focal point of controversy. Environmentalists fear lithium mining will ruin the natural landscape and contaminate the groundwater with heavy metals, posing a risk to residents' drinking water. Back in 2021, huge protests forced the Serbian government to back down on plans to excavate the lithium. Thousands filled the streets of Belgrade. Protesters blocked major roads and bridges and won their case. British-Australian mining giant Rio Tinto had its license to excavate the lithium revoked. Now that decision has been reversed, and Rio Tinto can begin operations. The company says the mine will create thousands of jobs and produce enough lithium for 1.1 million electric vehicles each year. The EU wants Europe's electric cars powered by European lithium, as it works to cut emissions and reduce dependence on China. And that has produced a change of heart in Belgrade. Serbia's new deal with the European Union includes a commitment from all sides to uphold strict environmental and sustainability standards. But not everyone is convinced. Protesters have been back on the streets in recent days. DW spoke to one of the protest leaders, who is a member of the opposition. Savo Manojlovic accuses the government of ignoring the will of the people, and he has a clear message for German Chancellor Olaf Scholz.
Majority of Serbia are against this project because there is very clear evidence that this will be an ecological disaster. What people really here want, they want democracy. Our message is, Olaf, leave our lithium and democracy.
On the streets of Belgrade, most people we talked to were also skeptical about the project. Maybe this agreement will be good, but I don't believe in it.
The European Union might provide guarantees for the project, but we're destroying nature.
It will be done here because everything's cheaper here. It won't be done in Germany.
Protest organizers say they're not giving up their fight and have pledged to once again make their voices heard.
Well, our correspondent Molan Amayal gave us this update.
Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, who was also attending this ceremony today, he really wanted to underline that all the standards when it comes up to this environmental issues, but also when it comes up to the rule of law, will be significantly supported, and that is something like the underline for this project. But still, a lot of people here in Serbia and also scientists, for example, from the University of Serbia, are saying this is a project which really harms the nature. So there's quite also a lot of discussions now going on, and the opposition called, for example, here in Serbia, that they want also again demonstrate against this contract which was signed today.
Andrei Covatario is an energy expert and co-founder of the ECERA. That's a forum for sharing sustainability knowledge. He joins us from Brussels. So welcome to DW. What do you think of this deal?
Thank you very much for having me. I think obviously it's a very important economic security improvement and energy security improvement for the European Union, because obviously lithium is very important for the energy transition process. So that would secure the next few years in terms of EV supply in the European Union, and I think this is critical. But then there's also the political aspect to it, because we are talking about geopolitics being involved here. By securing this deal, implicitly it means that Russia or China will not be able to strike a deal with Serbia, which was one of the concerns of the European Union over the past few years. And then there's also the domestic, let's say, politics. We do have elections in Germany next year, so I think this is an important victory for Scholz, and that is important at the moment considering the environment, the political global environment.
And why is the German Chancellor signing an EU deal?
So I think Germany is one of the most important actually manufacturers in terms of EVs and auto vehicles. So that is an important, let's say, signal sending to the domestic sector and industry, as well as to the overall demand for this alternative mobility in the European Union. Is one of the most important political figures in Europe, and I think that is important when it comes to this kind of deals. And once again, it connects to the geopolitical aspect that I was talking about.
And why is the EU pushing for this potentially polluting mine in Serbia when Germany has its own lithium reserves?
That is true. On the domestic side, Germany is also doing something on this front, is exploring the two options, areas that it has, reaching lithium. And I think there's an improvement over there as well. We are seeing the Greens, for instance, changing their mind on that. So there is advancement on that side as well. But Serbia has always been one of those destinations with high-reach lithium reserves. So everyone had an eye on their reserves, and I was talking previously about China. So obviously this is important when it comes to a partnership for the EU in securing additional partners for this kind of minerals that are critical for 2030 and the energy transition process.
So talk to us then about the potential environmental impacts of this mining. Is it possible to extract lithium in a sustainable way, as the EU and Germany are promising Serbia?
We need to understand from the start that putting natural resources, be they fossil or mineral, into economic processes causes externalities. But when it comes to the energy transition process and this transition towards cleaner technologies, this kind of mineral reserves are critical going forward. Now, there are different ways of sourcing, of mining for these minerals and for lithium, some more sustainable than the others. For instance, the geothermal fracking has no pollution or low pollution and low water intensity, but it causes some experts to question their seismic, let's say, risks. But there are solutions that are better than others. Now, going forward, without these critical minerals, we will not be able to have this clean technologies, clean generation technology. So obviously it's not a perfect situation, but it improves the overall energy security and energy transition environment.
So if I understand you correctly, the EU is going to Serbia to not just get these minerals, but also to block out Russia and China. And they see that energy security as being more important than environmental considerations in a country that is outside the bloc.
I didn't say that. I think implicitly it does that in the sense that it blocks Chinese access to that. But the environmental sustainability is quite important for the EU. So I think the standards that the EU imposes or will impose or should impose for mining of these minerals will be high. Now, the alternative is to continue sourcing clean technologies from China that still use these minerals that are sourced from other places of the world in similar fashion, or even worse when it comes to environmental protection, to labor protection, and so on and so forth. So it's arguably a better alternative, provided that the standards for mining will be high, as the EU is now currently considering.
The mining company that will be in charge of excavating the lithium in Serbia, Rio Tinto, has quite a bad track record regarding environmental standards in the past. How can it be trusted this time?
Indeed, it was subject to some controversies in the past in regards to the environmental protection or lack of environmental protection standards in the past. But once again, I think that goes back to my previous point. The European Union's standards when it comes to environment, to social protection, to labor protection have always been high. This is, by the way, one of the reasons why not too many options in the European Union at the moment are available. So I still think that the European Union, being a potential and a future client of these reserves, will impose very high standards, environmental standards to the company, to any company that will extract this in Serbia or in the future in other places, be it inside or outside of the European Union.
And you have no doubts that the European Union that their standards are good enough and robust enough, despite the fact that the EU has no lithium extraction going on within its own borders?
I think everything is questionable at the end of the day, and technical details can always be discussed, and experts can go into more granular details. But given the standards that the European Union has imposed over the past years, internally first, but then implicitly it should do that with its partners, I think higher standards, once again, then in relative terms to what the alternative is, will be imposed in the next few years. Once again, the alternative would be to still source technologies that have these resources from other places of the world in which standards are, for sure, in relative terms, much lower than that we are aiming here in Europe.
That's very clear. Thank you so much for joining us and explaining that so clearly. Energy expert Andrei Kovatariu.
Thank you.